Well, hello again. I I wanted to give you a little more detailed idea of some things that you could start working on for the children. I was thinking of things that did not involve supplies, so that you wouldn't have to, once you got the equipment, that you wouldn't need anything more than maybe some water and some soap, um, maybe just a little bit of scraps of paper for a hole punching activity. These activities, we call them practical life. Some of them are kind of artwork. And so what happens with these materials, these are the first materials the children work with in the Montessori environment. And um, excuse me, these materials really allow the children to practice just getting a material, laying it out in a particular order, working with it in a certain way, and then being responsible to clean it up and put it back where it belongs and have it be ready for the next person to use. So we talk about study skills, like the ability to really focus on something, to sequence, put things and do things like beginning, middle, and end, set it up, work with it, clean it up, do it in a particular order. Just making your work more perfect, lengthening the amount of time that the child works on it. Those are things that the child can work on doing these activities that are not academic, but they really prepare the children for things like learning sounds of letters and making words out of the sounds and counting and all the different learning activities, the different academic activities that Montessori also has for the children. But it's really all begun in these very simple non-academic activities. And these works, we call them works because they're important, and the child feels that work is important, and adults have often given work a bad name. We think of it negatively sometimes, but for the child, they want to participate in life. And that's what Maria Montessori saw right away, that the children wanted to help take care of the environment. And so she provided a mop the right size for them, brushes for scrubbing the right size, and buckets that were smaller for them. All of these things she provided for them. And we all we who work in Montessori with children, wherever we are in the world, we just look for things that are smaller that we can use with them, because sometimes it's not just right there. Even in the United States, it's not easy sometimes to find something a good size for the children. And so we cut things to be smaller. So I'm going to show you a few works up close so you can see the different pieces, and so you can hopefully start seeing what you might be able to find or put together that would be similar for working with the children. So I'm going to do some screen sharing. So this is a work, we call it spooning, and there are lots of different ways that people set this up, but it's getting the child in the habit, or just giving them the opportunity to transfer something from one container into the other. And so in this case, the child uses a spoon, which we use here for eating. And so if you have spoons, if spoons are usually used in your culture, then that could be a really easy thing to put together with maybe with a couple of bowls, and any kind of bean or grain or whatever you can find. It could even be some little beads or whatever can work. Now, you know, we do have to watch out sometimes for children that would, you know, stick them in their nose or in their mouth. I have not had that problem very much at all. Really not at all over the years I've been teaching, but I know that children might do something like that. So you might want to choose larger beans, and that would be perfectly fine. The idea is for the child to use the spoon to put the beans into the other bowl without spilling any of them out. And this is something that even a 2.5-year-old child enjoys doing, but all the way into the 3-year-old year. Also, the children really enjoy challenging themselves to do that. And it gets them ready for, this is going to be a whole sequence of activities to get ready for pouring water in a real exact kind of way. So we'll stop that one. And so I'll show you the next one. The next activity after this is rice pouring. We use rice. You could use another small grain, some wheat berries, or whatever you would have. And so in this case, we're using 2 pitchers. And so the child's going to practice pouring the rice into the other pitcher and not dropping any of the grains of rice out as they're pouring back and forth. And they really enjoy this. We try to have them do it without the 2 pitchers actually touching each other. So they would pour it a little bit above it. They tend to want to make them touch, but we try to get them to practice it without them touching, because as I say, we are getting ready to pour water back and forth. And so that would be where the pitchers are not touching when they're pouring water. So we will practice rice pouring that way. Okay, so we'll move on to the water pouring now. It's a very simple setup for that one. Let's see. Not wanting to choose that one. There we go. Okay, so here we have 2 pitchers, and these there's a supplier that we get these from. They're very inexpensive. I'm hoping even if you don't have anything like this there, that we could get you some, but maybe you can find something. These are pretty small pitchers, very nice for a child's hand, and they have a nice point, a nice spout on them. So one of them, the one on the right, is half full of water, and we're going to pour the water into the other pitcher. And when we reach the end of pouring all of the water into the other pitcher, on the end of the spout, there will be a tiny drop of water. So we use this little piece of a sponge. It could be a little piece of cloth if you didn't have a sponge, whatever you would have, that the child will use to get that last little drop off the end of the spout before they set the pitcher back down. They would keep the pitcher turned with that little drop hanging on the end of the spout and catch it with the tiny sponge. So they really enjoy that, pouring that back and forth, practicing getting all of the water into the other pitcher and back and forth like that. All right. So then the next thing they can do is perhaps work with a funnel. So we do the same thing here, but just put the metal funnel on top of the vase and again, pour the water in and catch the last drip. Then there'll be a little drip on the end of the funnel. We'll catch that with blot that off with the sponge and then pour from the vase back into the pitcher and repeat. And the child will sit and do this for quite some time. And if any water gets on the tray, they easily wipe it up with the small sponge. And this work, I actually did not take a photo of it, but I just forgot that what they can do after this is prepare a little vase with some greenery. I just go out in the yard and cut just even the wild plants. And they like to make a little vase of greenery, or if there are some flowers around, they can put flowers in the vase and just fill the vase like halfway with water. And I could tell you how we do that, show you those materials another time, but they enjoy just doing this just for the work of it. Yeah, this is a good time to share something else about that. I might have mentioned this before, but when the children especially are not 4 yet, the 3-year-olds, you will observe them doing an activity and there's not an ending to it. They don't have an idea of, oh, I finished scrubbing this table, I'm done. Because I scrubbed the whole thing, I wanted to make the whole thing clean. They don't have that sense. They are scrubbing for the joy of scrubbing. And they will just scrub even one side of the table or one part of the table. Or, if a child is just wiping something off, if you invite them to wipe things down after eating, they might just do one chair and keep doing it over and over again. So it's just something to know about 3-year-olds, that they don't have so much a completion of some big task. They're just enjoying so much just the doing of the work. And so they don't have a real concern about when am I finished? And so they will go on and on with it a lot of times. But the older children definitely love to do things like making a vase of flowers and like they accomplish something like that. So we'll move on to a couple of other activities. Let's see what else I loaded up here, I think. Yes. So another kind of transferring activity that they enjoy is an eyedropper. And again, the same supplier that we have here in the States has this this kind of thing, very inexpensive, a little bottle with an eyedropper in it. And they love to pour this. I just colored the water and I put a little bit of vinegar in it so that it doesn't get mold in it. And just to pour that into the cup on the left, and then they would use the eyedropper to transfer it back into the bottle. And once again, when they pour out of the bottle into the cup, they would use this tiny sponge to get the last drip so that the tray stays really clean and dry. And this is a great example of how careful the children can be, because this tray is, a pottery tray, and it has never been dropped. I should not say that because it might be dropped tomorrow, but it's just in perfect condition, and the children have been using it for easily 20 years in my classroom every day, and they love this work. Now, I will say they have broken the cup on the left, but the tray itself has been well cared for, and they really enjoy this work. This work can be very meditative for them, and that's the other really important point about these activities, is that you really see the child beginning to be very absorbed in what they're doing, and it becomes a very meditative kind of work. So we can think about the monasteries and how the monks will scrub the floors, work in the garden. If you know that kind of life, that monastic life, it's very conducive to reflection and just being silent inside. And so when Maria Montessori talks about the inner teacher, the child is able to really engage with their inner teacher just in the quiet of their interior, their own interior heart. So that's where it really has come to me that the children are at prayer, and we want to respect that in every way that we can. So one more activity for this video, and then I'm going to make another one for you today. But here's our last activity, which is a very different one, because it involves a little bit of paper. So this is very simple. This is a simple hole puncher. If you could get something like this and some paper, especially some paper that's a little bit heavier than just kind of regular paper. This is some good construction paper, but they can really enjoy this, and it does help the hand to become so strong. Some of the children will just punch and punch and punch. So this paper, so this is the other thing, we want to have a lot of different types of activities for them, as many as we can get together, so that every child will have preferences. And you see that, like, one child will love that hole puncher, and then the next child is loving the eyedropper, but vice versa, they're not that interested. That could change next month. That could be different. 6 months from now, that could be different, but we like to have a lot of choices for them so that they can have that ability to choose something that really kind of draws their attention. I remember a boy that was with me for a long time, and he started right almost on the day that he turned 3 years old. And typically that hole puncher, I think a child needs to be 3.5, and maybe even closer to 4 before they can manage to make that punch, because it is an adult hole puncher. I've never seen a child-sized hole puncher. And this little guy came in, and that was the thing he wanted to do. And I kind of tried to steer him to something else. And no, every day, and he could hardly do it. He could just kind of bend the paper with it. He couldn't really punch a hole through it. But every day he would sit for so long trying to make that hole puncher work. And he got himself going on it in just a very short period of time. So we see that kind of thing a lot, that the children will really, really challenge themselves. And it is something that kind of sits in them, even though it's not an academic work. It's that sense of, yeah, I can be challenged by something that's just purely physical and challenging my motor skills and my focus. And that really prepares the child to be able to do, to begin to write and to read and to do math work and memory work. Is kind of sets that pattern in them of, I can follow through on something. I can put my mind to something and stick with it and see that I can accomplish something. So I'm going to show one more thing, and then we'll stop this video. Oh wait, we already showed that one. Sorry. Let's see. Oh, I think that's it on this one, actually. So bye-bye for now, and we'll start another one. I'll send you another one shortly.